The first thing I noticed was the smell of expensive cologne, not mine. I froze in the hallway of my own penthouse, the city lights spilling through the windows, and heard voices coming from the dining room. I didn't recognize either of them. My pulse quickened as I stepped forward, briefcase still in my hand. Two men sat at my dining table like they owned the place. One of them was Marcus Vale, the kind of guy who always looked like he had just stepped out of a luxury car ad. Gold watch, slick suit, smug grin. The other, some younger associate, was pouring my bourbon into crystal glasses. "Lucas Kane," Marcus said, his tone dripping with mock warmth. "You're home earlier than expected." I stared at him, then at Isabel, my wife of 8 years, who was leaning against the counter with her arms crossed. She didn't look startled or guilty. She looked annoyed. "What the hell is going on here?" I asked, my voice low. Marcus smirked, raising his glass as if in a toast. "She's mine now. Behave, and maybe you'll keep a fraction of your company." I blinked, trying to make sense of his words. My company? What the hell was he talking about? I turned to Isabel. "Is this a joke?" She tilted her head, her lips curling in a way that felt like a knife to my chest. "A real man doesn't let his wife slip away. Marcus knows my worth." Something inside me snapped. I crossed the room in 2 strides and slammed my fist into Marcus's jaw. The crack was loud, too loud, and his glass shattered as he fell back in the chair. The younger guy jumped up, but I didn't care. I was shaking with rage, and still, it wasn't enough. My knuckles throbbed, but I wanted to hit him again. "Lucas, stop," Isabel said sharply, but there was no fear in her voice, just contempt. Her eyes cut through me like I was the one who had betrayed her. "This is why, Lucas, you only know how to fight when it's too late." Marcus groaned, clutching his jaw, but somehow still smiling. "You've been so busy with your shiny little empire that you didn't notice your own house burning down. Too bad, Kane. Too damn bad." I felt like I was standing outside my own life, watching it fall apart piece by piece. "You're in my home," I said through clenched teeth. "You have 3 seconds to tell me what the hell you're doing here." Marcus spat blood into a napkin, then laughed. "You built your fortune, but you didn't build a marriage. Isabel and I, we're building something real. And by the time I'm done, you won't just lose her. You'll lose everything." I looked at Isabel, waiting for some sign that this was all a sick joke. Instead, she just shook her head slowly, like I was pathetic. I wanted to scream. I wanted answers. But all I felt was this cold, hollow pit forming in my chest. And for the first time in years, I had no idea what to do next. That night, after Marcus and Isabel left the penthouse like they owned the air I breathed, I couldn't sleep. I just sat in my office staring at the city skyline, wondering how I'd missed the cracks forming under my own feet. The signs had been there, little things that seemed harmless at first, but I'd been too busy running Kane Technologies to notice. It started with the spa trips. Isabel would disappear for a full day at some luxury resort, always coming home late, smelling faintly of champagne and some unfamiliar cologne that she brushed off as part of the massage oils. I wanted to believe her. We'd been married for 8 years, and I had convinced myself that trust meant never asking too many questions. Then there were the late-night calls. She'd step out to the balcony, her voice low but sharp, ending the conversations quickly if I walked in. "Just a friend," she said once, snapping her phone shut with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "You work all the time, Lucas. I need someone to talk to." I told myself it was nothing. I told myself I'd make it up to her when I had more time. That lie kept me blind longer than I want to admit. The turning point came when she canceled our anniversary trip to Switzerland. I had booked a chalet months in advance, planning to take a rare break from work. 2 days before the flight, Isabel claimed she had a marketing event she couldn't skip. I went alone, thinking it would give us space, but on the second night there, I saw a tagged photo of her on social media. Not at any event, but in the back of Marcus Vale's Ferrari, her head tilted toward him, laughing like a woman who had forgotten she was married. I tried to confront her when I got home, but she was slick, always flipping the conversation. "Why are you stalking my life? Do you think I'm some child who needs to check in with you?" she snapped. "God, Lucas, you're boring. You're married to your company. Marcus at least knows how to have fun." That word, boring, stuck in my chest like glass. The final blow came by accident. I walked into the kitchen one night and heard her voice drifting from the laundry room. "Lucas doesn't even suspect a thing," she whispered into her phone, followed by a giggle. He's too wrapped up in his little tech empire. Marcus, you're the only man who really sees me. I stood there, frozen, listening to my own wife call me invisible. When I stepped forward, she hung up instantly and smiled like nothing had happened. That smile almost broke me. The next morning, I called Colton Shaw, a private investigator I knew through a former business partner. Colton had the kind of reputation you trusted. A retired detective, rough around the edges but relentless. Within 2 weeks, he delivered a manila envelope to my office. Inside were photos of Isabel and Marcus at luxury hotels, videos of them sharing bottles of wine on balconies I'd never seen, and one audio clip that gutted me. Isabel mocking me, saying I was too robotic to know what love felt like. I sat there, staring at the evidence, and realized my marriage wasn't just broken. It had been dismantled piece by piece while I was too blind to stop it. And now, I couldn't unsee the truth. I wanted to catch them in the act. No more whispers, no more guessing. So, I set the trap. A fake board meeting, conveniently scheduled late in the evening, and a deliberate, forgotten message to Isabel saying I wouldn't be home until midnight. Then I waited, sitting in my car a block away, watching the clock. When I finally walked into my penthouse, I found exactly what I expected. Isabel and Marcus were on the balcony, wine glasses in hand, acting like this place, my home, belonged to them. A bottle of vintage Bordeaux I had been saving for years was half empty on the table. "Well," Marcus said with that trademark grin, "look who decided to show up." Isabel didn't even flinch. She leaned against the railing, swirling her wine like nothing about this was wrong. "You're early. Guess your precious company can survive without you for one night." I dropped my keys onto the counter, my jaw tight. "Let's cut the games. How long has this been going on?" She rolled her eyes, almost bored. "Does it matter? You were married to your company years ago. Marcus, he makes me feel alive." "Alive?" I repeated, my voice colder than I'd ever heard it. Marcus chuckled, stepping forward. "She's right, Kane. You're too busy being the golden boy of the tech world to even notice when your wife is dying of loneliness. Maybe sign whatever papers she gives you and walk away from your kingdom. You'll save yourself the trouble." I felt that same anger surge up, the kind that had made me break his jaw days ago. But this time, I stopped myself. I saw the smirk on his face, the way Isabel's eyes gleamed like she'd already won. They wanted me to explode. They wanted me to lose control. Instead, I walked closer, keeping my voice steady. "You think this is about passion? You're conning her, Marcus, and when you're done bleeding her dry, you'll vanish. That's who you are." Marcus tilted his head, still smiling. Spoken like a man who knows he's already lost. I turned to Isabel. She looked at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. "When he betrays you," I said quietly, "remember this moment. You traded a king for a con artist." Her lips curled, but I didn't wait for a response. I grabbed my coat, my mind already spinning with plans. Rage wasn't going to win this war. Strategy would. I walked out, letting the door slam behind me. And for the first time since this nightmare started, I knew exactly what I needed to do next. 2 days after the confrontation, I sat in my office with the blinds drawn, staring at the thick folder Colton Shaw had given me. Every page was a knife, receipts from luxury hotels, wire transfers from accounts linked to shell companies, and a spreadsheet detailing how Isabel and Marcus were moving money under my name. It wasn't just an affair anymore. They were building a way to bleed me dry. I flipped through the pages again, my jaw tightening. Isabel hadn't just betrayed me as a wife. She'd gone after the one thing I'd built from nothing, Kane Technologies. She knew how much I cared about my company. Maybe that was the point. Colton sat across from me, leaning back in his chair. "She's not just cheating on you, Lucas. She's partnering with him. Marcus has a reputation for pumping and dumping startups, inflating value, pulling strings, and leaving wreckage behind. He's using her to get to you." I clenched my fists. "They think they're untouchable." "They think you're predictable," Colton corrected. "They're counting on your anger to make you sloppy." That was when I decided anger wouldn't win. I needed precision. I called Claire Drake, my lawyer, someone who had crushed billion-dollar companies in court without breaking a sweat. Claire wasn't just good, she was lethal. By that evening, Claire had already frozen the accounts Isabel could access and started drafting a fraud case. "This isn't just infidelity," she said over the phone, her voice cool and steady. "This is criminal. We're going to hit them where it hurts most. their image, and their money. The more I thought about it, the more I realized I didn't want a private win. I wanted a public reckoning. Isabel thrived on appearances, the social circles, the charity galas, the Instagram perfect life. I was going to destroy that facade in one decisive blow. Her birthday was in 3 weeks, and she had planned a rooftop gala, inviting everyone who mattered in her world. Investors, friends, family. I called the event planner myself, offering to cover additional costs for a surprise video tribute to Isabel. No one questioned it. They assumed I was playing the role of the doting husband. In reality, I hired a videographer and gave him a very different assignment. We gathered every piece of evidence Colton had collected: the hotel footage, the mocking phone recordings, even Marcus bragging about how easy it was to manipulate Isabel into siphoning my funds. We edited it into a polished video that would start with sweet moments of our marriage, wedding clips, vacations, quiet moments at home, before pulling the rug out from under her in front of everyone. Each night, I watched the video come together, my rage cooling into something sharper. I wasn't just preparing a revenge plan. I was laying a trap that they couldn't see coming, not until it was too late. By the time her birthday arrived, I was ready, silent, waiting. And they had no idea what was coming. The rooftop of the Westmore Hotel was glowing with string lights and soft jazz. Isabel always had a taste for the dramatic, and this was her stage. Guests sipped champagne, laughed in tight clusters, and snapped photos for their curated feeds. Isabel, dressed in a sleek emerald gown, moved through the crowd like she was born to be adored. Marcus trailed behind her, all smug confidence and designer tailoring, shaking hands like he was already the new king of my world. I kept my distance, letting them bask in their perfect little illusion. Nobody here suspected the storm coming. They saw me as the successful husband, the doting partner throwing a lavish birthday party for his wife. In a way, they were right. I was throwing her a party, just not the kind she expected. "Lucas, darling," Isabel said when she spotted me near the entrance. She kissed my cheek like nothing had happened, like she wasn't standing beside the man who had wrecked our marriage. "Try to smile tonight. It's my birthday after all." "Don't worry," I said calmly. "This will be a night you'll never forget." The evening unfolded in carefully timed beats, drinks, speeches, laughter. Marcus gave a smug toast about Isabel's unmatched spirit, dropping little barbs about how some people don't appreciate what they have until it's gone. Isabel beamed at him like he was the hero of the story. My stomach turned, but I stayed composed. My moment was coming. When the lights dimmed and the hotel's projector screen lit up, guests settled into their seats expecting a heartfelt tribute. Isabel gripped my arm with fake sweetness. "Oh, Lucas," she cooed, "you didn't have to do this." The video began with soft piano music and warm clips of us from the early years. Our wedding, our honeymoon, birthdays, vacations. Isabel's face softened as nostalgia washed over her. People smiled, murmuring about how beautiful we once looked together. Then the screen shifted, the music cut. A photo of Isabel and Marcus at a luxury suite appeared, her lips on his neck, his hand wrapped possessively around her waist. Gasps rippled through the crowd. The next clip played, Marcus bragging to a colleague about bleeding Kane dry, while Isabel laughed in the background. Then came the damning financial documents, each page flashing across the screen like a hammer on glass. "Lucas, what is this?" Isabel hissed, her voice trembling now. I didn't answer. The video kept rolling. Phone calls, hotel receipts, Marcus mocking me, Isabel calling me boring and blind. Guests whispered, phones shot up to record, and the polished facade Isabel had built began to crack right in front of her audience. Finally, the screen went black. My voice came on, steady and cold. "Happy birthday, Isabel. Consider this my farewell gift. My lawyers will be in touch." The lights came back on to silence. Isabel's face had gone pale, her hands trembling. Marcus tried to laugh it off, but someone near the bar muttered, "What a snake," and the crowd began to scatter. Isabel spun toward Marcus, eyes blazing, and slapped him hard enough that the sound cut through the rooftop chatter. Within minutes, their perfect world collapsed. Guests left in clusters, whispering into their phones, no doubt posting everything they had just seen. Marcus cursed under his breath and stormed off. Isabel stood alone in the center of the chaos, her mascara streaking down her face, staring at me like she didn't recognize the man she'd betrayed. I left without a word. The silence of the elevator ride down felt like victory. The fallout was immediate. By the next morning, clips from Isabel's birthday party were all over social media. Guests had recorded the entire video, their shocked reactions now trending under hashtags that paired Isabel's name with Marcus's in all the wrong ways. Even the local news picked it up. Tech mogul exposes wife's affair and financial scandal, with blurred footage of Isabel's pale, frozen face as the damning evidence played behind her. For a man who valued his reputation, Marcus didn't take the exposure well. He posted a statement online, claiming everything was taken out of context, but nobody bought it. His calls to investors went unanswered, and whispers about his shady business practices spread like wildfire. By the end of the week, Isabel's phone calls to me had turned frantic. At first, I ignored them. Then one night, she showed up at my apartment, her designer coat wrinkled, her makeup streaked. She looked nothing like the polished woman I once knew. "Lucas, please," she said the moment I opened the door. "You have to believe me. Marcus used me. He made me think you didn't care, that you'd already moved on with your work." I crossed my arms, leaning against the doorway. "Used you? Isabel, you knew exactly what you were doing. You didn't just cheat, you plotted. You laughed about it while you helped him go after my company." She shook her head, tears rolling down her cheeks. "I made a mistake. I was angry, and I cut her off with a voice as sharp as broken glass. "A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is yelling during an argument. What you did was calculated betrayal." For a second, I thought she'd crumble right there. Instead, her expression hardened. She wiped her tears with the back of her hand, her jaw tightening. "You think you've won? You'll regret this, Lucas. You always think you're smarter than everyone, but you're not untouchable." I met her glare with a calm I didn't know I was capable of. "Maybe not, but I'm free of you. And that's all I wanted." She stood there for a moment, her breathing heavy, then turned on her heel and stormed out, slamming the door behind her. I stayed there for a while, staring at the empty hallway, feeling that strange, heavy silence settle in. For the first time since everything started, I felt a dark, quiet sense of closure. But deep down, I knew this wasn't over. Marcus wouldn't stay quiet, and Isabel had too much pride to let her fall from grace end here. A week after the party, I got a call from Claire Drake that changed everything. "Lucas," she said, her tone sharp but measured, "Marcus Vail is already under federal investigation. Wire fraud, shell corporations, money laundering, the works. And now, thanks to the evidence Colton dug up, Isabel's tied to it too." I sat back in my chair, letting the words sink in. "So they're going down?" Claire chuckled, a low, confident sound. "With the recordings of Marcus bragging about moving your money and the documents we've collected, they don't stand a chance. I'll be handing this over to the federal agents on Monday. Expect arrests by the end of the week." It was almost too perfect. The same woman who had mocked me, the same man who'd tried to dismantle my life, now they were about to watch theirs crumble. 2 days later, Colton called me from his car. "They're at Marcus's place," he said. "Feds are swarming the building. Looks like Christmas came early." I turned on the news and saw the footage. Marcus being led out of a sleek condo in handcuffs, his face pale, his jaw clenched as reporters shouted questions. Right behind him, Isabel appeared in a tailored coat, but her eyes were wide and panicked. The cameras caught her yelling something about a misunderstanding as agents guided her into a black SUV. I didn't feel pity, not anymore. I watched like a man witnessing a storm he'd predicted down to the last drop of rain. By that evening, every major financial news outlet was covering the arrests. Isabel's name trended alongside Marcus's, the words fraud and conspiracy flashing across every headline. Her friends, the ones who had adored her perfect life, went silent. Sponsors from her charity events publicly cut ties. Marcus's investment firm collapsed overnight, with investors lining up to sue him. A day later, a letter arrived at my office. Isabel's handwriting, neat, deliberate, still etched into my memory. Against my better judgment, I opened it. The first line read, "Lucas, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but please listen to me." I didn't read any further. I tore the letter in half and dropped it into the fireplace. Watching the paper curl and blacken, I realized something. I wasn't angry anymore, not in the way I had been. It was over. Colton stopped by later that night. "You did it," he said, leaning on my kitchen counter. "You got justice. Most guys would have just burned it all down, but you You made them destroy themselves. I nodded, feeling a quiet, grim satisfaction. No, I said. They handed me the match. I just let them strike it. 6 months later, I almost forgot what her voice sounded like. Isabel had vanished from my world, swallowed by the mess she and Marcus had made. My company was stronger than ever. Investors rallied behind me, impressed by how I'd turned a personal disaster into a cautionary tale of resilience. My days were packed with deals, strategy meetings, and product launches. My nights were quiet. For once, the silence didn't hurt. Then the letter came. The envelope was plain, the handwriting familiar. I almost tossed it without opening it, but curiosity got the better of me. The first line stopped me cold. Lucas, I'm pregnant. The child is yours. I stared at the words, my mind running in circles. A dozen thoughts battled for space. Was it true? Was this just another manipulation? Isabel had already burned every bridge, but the idea of a child, that wasn't something I could ignore. 2 days later, I agreed to meet her. The cafe was quiet, far from the high-rise chaos of downtown. I saw her before she saw me, sitting at a corner table, her posture smaller, her face stripped of its former arrogance. Isabel looked human, broken even. Lucas, she said softly when I sat down. Her hands trembled around the coffee cup. Thank you for coming. I wasn't sure you would. Cut to the point, I said. My tone wasn't cruel, but it wasn't warm either. She swallowed hard. I'm pregnant. It's yours. I don't want your money, and I'm not asking for forgiveness. I thought you should know. I studied her, searching for the smirk she always wore when she was scheming. It wasn't there. Instead, I saw a woman who had lost everything and had no cards left to play. How do I know this isn't just another one of your games? I asked. It isn't, she said, her voice cracking. Lucas, I've made mistakes I'll never undo. Marcus was arrested and I'm not that person anymore. This isn't about us. It's about the child. I'll raise them on my own if I have to. I just thought... She looked down, her voice fading. I thought you deserved to know. I sat back, my mind cold and sharp. I didn't trust her, not fully, not ever. But if the child was mine, I couldn't ignore my responsibility. I reached into my jacket, pulled out Claire's card, and slid it across the table. If it's mine, I said, I'll do my duty. But you're no longer part of my story. She looked at me, her lips trembling like she wanted to say something, but I stood before she could speak. As I walked out of the cafe, the weight of the past 6 months finally lifted. Isabel's chaos would never own me again. When I walked out of the cafe after meeting Isabel, there was no anger left in me, just a sharp clarity I hadn't felt in years. For so long, my life had revolved around her. The love, the betrayal, the revenge. But as I stepped into the warm sunlight that day, I realized I'd finally closed that chapter. I moved into a new penthouse a few weeks later. No ghosts of the past lingered there. No traces of Isabel's perfume. No memories of Marcus's smug grin. The space was open, minimalist, and quiet. It felt like mine, truly mine, for the first time in years. Most evenings I'd find myself on the balcony, overlooking the city that had once been just a blur in my relentless climb to success. Now I noticed its rhythm, the hum of traffic, the glow of lights, the lives of people who didn't know my story and never needed to. I kept only one photo from my old life, tucked away in my office. It wasn't of Isabel. It was of me, a candid shot a friend had taken years ago, back when Kane Technologies was just a dream sketched on a whiteboard. I looked young, almost naive, but determined. That man had built an empire from nothing, and when everything tried to tear him down, he fought to protect it. Looking at that photo now, I didn't see a fool who got blindsided by love. I saw a survivor, someone sharper, stronger, and ready for whatever came next. I wasn't bitter. If anything, I was grateful. Isabel's betrayal had stripped away the illusions I once clung to, forcing me to see who I really was when everything else fell apart. And I liked the man I saw now. One evening, I stood on my balcony with a glass of whiskey, watching the sunset burn orange over the skyline. For the first time in a long while, I felt free. Not just from Isabel, but from the weight of the past. The city stretched out below me, full of possibilities. My life wasn't defined by revenge anymore. It wasn't defined by love lost. It was mine, in every sense of the word. and for the first time in years, I was ready to start living again.